Hello again, everyone. My name is Reverend Pamela Dawn, and this is the third installment in the Earth Allies series. In the first two parts, we went over a definition of terms. In the last piece, I talked about how we got to our current ecological crisis and what depth and Jungian psychology have to say about kind of rescuing us from that state of being. And in this third part of the series, I'm going to talk about and give you instructions on how to create a connection with your first Earth ally. There's going to be a larger process in the fourth part of this series, and I think I'm going to start a Zoom monthly meeting on doing this process together with others. I currently do it with a tight-knit group of women who I'm going to continue to do this with separately, but I would like to open this process up to help all of you start to work through it. So please, in the comments below, let me know if you're interested in participating in that. All right? So in this third part of the series, I'm going to talk about your first ally. This was a tough thing to figure out how to fit it in. There are a lot of philosophical and psychological aspects to this that I'm not going to really go into. I am, however, going to publish on my website the paper that I'm giving most of this information to you from, which I wrote for my eco-psychology class in my PhD program. But I am also going to upload another paper that I wrote for the same program on totemism, because it's going to give you some background to what we're going to be doing today. It is a cold, rainy, and snowy day here in the mountains, so mountain friends, I'm sorry that I'm giving you this assignment today. You can do it over the next couple of days, but it does require going outside. So let me give you a little bit of background first. So before I had spoken about society and their connection to the earth and how it was extraordinarily different. Those were animistic societies. And to give you a little background, animism is the attributing of a soul to plants, inanimate objects, and natural phenomena, as well as the belief in a supernatural power that organizes and animates the material universe. So I think I've been trying to make it pretty clear that I'm trying to not necessarily go at this from a religious standpoint, that I am trying to help people invoke a more spiritual way of living. But I really don't want to be considered another one of the like woo-woo people. So I'm trying to keep this grounded as much in psychology as I possibly can, because I know that sometimes spiritual talk really turns a lot of people off, and I understand that, considering all the trauma that religious systems have caused over thousands and thousands of years. However, I do believe that it is important for us to return to somewhat of an animistic mindset, because if we continue to consider the world around us to be dead matter, then why should we care about it? And I think that which I brought up in my first talk here, as well as my second, is part of why we are here now. So in these animistic societies, there was a belief that some of your soul essence was linked to an object or objects outside of oneself. This is connected to the idea of totemism. And totems actually are not what you think they are. They're not totem animals. This actually came from a mistranslation in the 1800s and has kind of become its own New Age phenomenon unto itself. That word actually doesn't mean that. It means having objects that have a sacred meaning, and that the objects can represent something that is part of you. So what I'm trying to do with this next assignment is tap everyone back into this type of thinking. Yet again, this is something that you can look at symbolically, and I wanted to look up and give you a definition of symbolism just in case that's like, what do you mean by symbolically? So symbolism generally means an object representing another to give an entirely different meaning that is much deeper and more significant. So in this process that we're about to be doing, you don't need to necessarily go and find an object and be like, oh, this is part of my soul, though if that's how you think and feel about reality, by all means. However, if you don't think that reality is like that, maybe you will by the end of this process, but think about it as being something symbolic. All right, so what I want you to do is I want you to go outside after you watch this video, hopefully to your own property or property adjacent. I don't want you to like drive to another place or go to the beach if you don't live there, or drive to the mountains if you don't live there and pick up something. Yet again, this is still that trying to tap you in and make you more connected to the land on which you live. So I want you to go outside and I want you to find an object. Now at first I was going to recommend everybody pick up a stone, but not everybody is into stones. I personally am, so that's what I ended up picking up. You could pick up a branch. I would recommend something that's not going to decay, because that kind of would defeat the purpose of working with this object. I want you to pick up something that's going to last a while. So that's why at first I was going to recommend a stone. So I actually found my first earth ally, this stone, when I was walking out to my Honor Thy Land altar one afternoon, I think the day after I set it up. And I looked down, and popping out of the ground was this absolutely just, it's hard to see it maybe so much, stunning piece of quartz crystal. One of the things that I think is so absolutely amazing and magical about where I live is that there is a lot of quartz, and when I was a child I used to collect it from Lake Gregory and keep it in little bottles, and felt like it was really powerful, which I still believe to this day. So this was mine. So pick up something that you feel a kinship with. So what you're going to do after that is you're going to come back inside, especially if you do this over the next couple of days when it's cold, and you're going to sit down with these 3 questions. One is, why was I attracted to this object? Again, why was I attracted to this object? 2 is, how does it symbolically represent me? 2, how does it symbolically represent me? And 3 is, how can it help me? So, I would assume that you were assuming that by the word ally, that's kind of somebody who is a friend you have a kinship with. So in this first round of creating a relationship with an actual object that you can live with and have in your home, those are the questions you're going to ask. This whole process becomes a lot more complicated, and it requires that you create relations with things that you can't pick up or hold. We will get into that later, but as this first round, I really wanted you to have something that you could hold on to. So now that we've gotten back our test results, I'm going to tell you a little story. So my husband and my stepson have been, we were pretty sure that they had COVID-19. My stepson had come back from Boston University because, all the schools are closed, to come stay with us. And he wasn't feeling good when he got home, and then it got progressively worse, and then my husband got it, whatever it was. And several nights ago, he couldn't breathe, and so I had to take him to the emergency room where we went through all the rigmarole of all the testing that is done in that regard. We have since found out that he does not have it at this point. If he had it at some point, they didn't do that type of test. They did the type of test of if he actively has it. So he does not. He is now getting better. But the reason why I'm telling you this story is this stone kept me sane through that whole process. So for me, if I were to answer these questions, I'm attracted to this because I have always had a love affair with quartz. I liked the shape. I like the fact that it's a diamond. It's kind of fancy and royal. I felt like it symbolically represented me because I believe that I have healing power, much like quartz does. I'm also a good conductor. I am always solid in most situations. And as I went through the process of trying to keep my family healthy, trying to provide all of the food and necessary things for my husband and stepson, who I then quarantined in part of our house so that he wouldn't get me and my toddler sick. I managed to keep it together even though I felt like I wanted to fall apart. But every single night I slept holding this stone, and it brought me peace. And as things continue to unfold, as the world continues to get more and more frightening, anytime I start to feel like I'm gonna freak out, I pick this up and I just hold on, and I remember I am solid. I am like this. I want to be part of what helps heal the world. So that is my story with this. I mean, it's obviously going to become more complicated as time passes, but establishing a connection with a physical object from nature can help you do a lot of things. And over time, I've had many stones that I've become friends with that have helped me in various ways. And that could all be 100% psychosomatic, and that's fine, whatever gets you through the day. But the particular purpose of this is to start literally grounding into something that you can bring in from outside. Like, I just love the fact that my whole entire fireplace is made out of rock from our yard, which just is so amazing. So I have the ability to do this in ways that a lot of people don't. But if you live in a really modern house and you don't have really natural wood and stone around you, starting to bring in things from outside is step one in this process. Step two in this process, which I will go over in our fourth video, is a little bit more imaginative. And that is one of the reasons why I want to be able to create a Zoom meeting regularly with anyone who is interested, because this process will take a little bit of time to learn how to do, and I want to provide that for you. I'm going to go through the steps in the next video, but I wanted to start to create a community of people who are interested in this process. So there's your first assignment. The questions again are: why was I attracted to this object? How does it symbolically represent me? and how can it help me? So go out, find your object, answer your questions, and start your relationship with your first ally. All right? And leave comments about if you're interested in participating in doing more work with me in this regard. All right? I look forward to hearing your comments. Bye, everybody.